Hello and good morning. How's everyone doing out there in the real world? To be honest, I've been a little stressed myself lately, so I treated myself to a coffee this morning. And while ordering, another customer brought in the most charming little puppy in a stroller, a yellow lab, I think. It couldn't have been more than a few months old. It's just amazing how much animals can shift your mood for the better. Okay, you don't have to believe me, but just by happenstance, just by chance, I was scrolling through unsolved cases on uncovered.com, and this particular missing persons case stuck out to me. Naturally, I open another tab and start by Googling her name. Lo and behold, a bunch of articles popped up, all posted within 24 hours, referencing major updates. This is the case of Asha Degree. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come from uncovered.com, Oxygen, WBTV.com, WSCOC, TV, CBS, and any others I will list down below. Asha Degree's parents were married on Valentine's Day of 1988 and soon welcomed a baby boy named O'Brien a year later. And before they knew it, Asha came along in 1990. The family lived in a rural residential area of Shelby, North Carolina, just west of Charlotte's metro area. According to Wikipedia, her parents, quote, made sure their children were insulated from outside influences and had a life centered around their extended family, church, and education. Asha handled this childhood well. She was cautious, shy, and content mostly staying within the limits of what her parents had set. And I imagine that's a parent's dream. In the year 2000, Asha was 9 and loving 4th grade. In fact, killing it as a basketball star. They had only lost a single game that season after Asha had fouled out. It's winter of that year, and on Sunday, February 13th, Asha and her brother O'Brien went to an evening church service before heading home for the night. Both children were tucked safely away in their shared bedroom by 8 p.m. Harold, her father, had been awakened that night when a nearby car hit a pole, causing the power to go out in the neighborhood. But before he went back to bed around 2:30 in the morning, he checked on the kids and both were sound asleep. Shortly after, O'Brien, he heard Asha rummaging around, moving a bit, but assumed nothing of it, figuring she was just getting comfortable in bed, and he never opened his weary eyes. The next morning at 6:30 a.m., Aquila, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, the mother went to wake both kids, but only O'Brien was in his bed, so she ran up and down the house looking for Asha with no luck. Quote, she told Harold she could not find their daughter, and he suggested Asha might have gone over to his mother's house across the street. When Aquila called there, her sister-in-law said that Asha was not there. That's when I went into panic mode. I heard a car next door, I put shoes on and ran outside. Aquila called her mother, who then told her to call the police. They arrived promptly before 7 a.m., this is amazing, with dogs to search for Asha's scent. And by 7:05, the entire block had awakened to the name of Asha ringing throughout the street. The neighborhood came together in a big way to help look for her. People calling out of work and canceling plans left and right. And even with such a large group effort, by the end of the day, the only item recovered was a small mitten. And that didn't even belong to her. Asha's mother said that there weren't any missing winter items from her room, like some of her favorite clothing items were. But the next day, thanks to local news coverage, 2 truck drivers came forward with important information. Quote, between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., a truck driver and a motorist saw her walking south along Highway 18, wearing a long-sleeved white t-shirt and white pants, just north of its junction with Highway 180. They reported this to police after seeing a TV report about her disappearance. The motorist said that he turned around because he thought it was, quote, strange such a small child would be out by herself at that hour. He circled 3 times and eventually saw Asha run into the woods by the roadside and disappear. It was a rainy night, and the witness said there was, quote, a storm raging when he saw her. County Sheriff Dan Crawford said, "We're pretty sure it was her because the descriptions they gave are consistent with what we know she was wearing." He also added that they saw her at the same place heading in the same direction, end quote. Okay, so now investigators at least have a starting point for a more controlled search. But as for Asha, what prompted this behavior? I understand stranger danger and avoiding the motorist, but how did we get here on the highway in the first place? And had she been by herself the whole time? Was she the only one to run into the woods? So many additional questions. The next day, February 15th, a man reported finding candy wrappers and random school supplies in his shed near where Asha was seen running into the woods off the highway. Her parents did confirm that the items belonged to her. All right, so she left the highway and made it to this little shack. Maybe to get out of the rain, maybe to get away from somebody else. Also found, quote, was a photograph of a young black girl around Asha's age who has yet to be identified. These were the only traces of her found during the initial search, end quote. If that's not her photo, whose is it? And, well, if it were one of her friends, I'm sure it would be identifiable. It's just adding to the mystery. Only a week later, the search was called off. Sheriff Dan Crawford said, "We never really had that first good, substantial lead," which I don't agree with. But, however, he did encourage the media to keep Asha's story alive. And they didn't stop investigating either. It was only the large-scale searches that they halted. As the months went on, her case would go on to gain national attention from a variety of celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey and stock car racing driver Travis Kittleson, no less. And then in August of 2001, the last physical evidence of this case was recovered. Quote, Asha's book bag and other items were discovered during a construction project off Highway 18 in Burke County near Morganton, which is about 26 miles or 42 kilometers north of Shelby. It was wrapped in 2 black trash bags, and the worker who found it said the book bag contained Asha's name and phone number, end quote. So the FBI immediately shipped this off to Quantico for testing, and the contents of her book bag were not made public until many years later, when they stated it, quote, contained a copy of Dr. Seuss's McElligot's Pool? I've never heard of that book. And a t-shirt depicting the band New Kids on the Block. As the years passed, investigators followed dozens of false or dead-end leads, but never gave up hope, nor did her family. They worked hard over the years to keep her memory and her story alive, hoping for any answer. According to Wikipedia, in 2008, they established a scholarship in her name for a deserving local student, and they also host an annual walk to raise awareness and money to fund their search. The walk starts at their home and ends at a missing persons billboard for Asha along Highway 18, near where she was last seen. In February of 2015, 15 years after her disappearance, the FBI announced they were re-examining the case, and 1 year later, in 2016, announced that, quote, their reinvestigation of the case had turned up a possible new lead. They disclosed that Asha may have been seen getting into a dark green, early 1970s Lincoln Continental or possibly a Ford Thunderbird from the same era, along Route 18 where she was last seen later that night. It was described as having rust around its wheel wells, end quote. That was a huge break in the case, but it still didn't give them enough evidence to essentially move forward. So in 2017, the FBI deployed a specialized child abduction unit in an attempt to find any additional evidence as well. But the biggest news comes today, or this week at least. And it is big. According to WSOC TV, new search warrants in connection with the disappearance of 9-year-old Asha were made public on Monday, and investigators said for the first time that they believe she was killed and concealed. Killed and concealed. Did I say that weird? Remember those items of Asha that investigators found wrapped in the black trash bags? Well, the FBI not only found her belongings, but did recover a few pieces of defining evidence as well. Quote, according to the search warrant affidavit, 2 items gave investigators evidentiary results with DNA samples that were narrowed down to 2 people. The affidavit says one sample belonged to a man who died in 2004 named Russell Underhill. It also says a hair stem was found on Asha's undershirt that matched DNA to one of Roy Dedman's daughters from genealogy data. So this Roy Dedman, he had 3 daughters who were all teenagers at the time of Asha's disappearance. And the DNA sample matched one daughter who was 13 to be exact on February 14th of the year 2000. End quote. So based on all this new evidence collected and the fact that no one has had contact with Asha since her disappearance, that was what led investigators to believe she was, quote, a victim of homicide and had her body concealed. So according to this new article, or these new articles, the warrant describes Roy and Connie Dedman, that's Dedmon, as, quote, suspects, and says that the investigators believe their help would have been necessary in the execution and or concealment of the crime. An attorney for Roy Dedman, David Teddy, told the reporters on Friday that his client didn't have anything to do with Asha's disappearance, but he alluded to the search warrant possibly revealing, quote, circumstances of Asha Degree's disappearance. What does that mean? But how did the police get here? And I'm just going to read this excerpt from WSOC TV. Oh, so many letters, as it's a bit confusing, but the author here does a great job of sort of breaking it down. According to a search warrant affidavit, investigators interviewed an employee at Cleveland County Social Services who confirmed that Russell Underhill was under the care of Roy Dedman in February 2000 at Cleveland Healthcare. Investigators confirmed Underhill's residency at the Cleveland Healthcare through several documents, including a surgical record that listed Roy Lee Dedman as Underhill's emergency contact. After Cleveland Healthcare closed in 2002, Roy and Connie Dedman opened an assisted living center in Vail named Northbrook Rest Home, where Underhill lived until his death in 2004. The social services employee told investigators that, quote, they were told Roy Lee Dedman would send his 16 to 17-year-old daughter to transport patients in an unreliable vehicle to and from Broughton Hospital in Morganton, end quote. Last week, authorities towed a 1960s era sedan that resembled the description of a vehicle sought in Asha's disappearance. Investigators said in their affidavit, quote, Roy Dedman and Connie Dedman are the 2 common links between the DNA profiles of Russell Underhill and the Dedman's daughter, collected and identified from Asha's undershirt and the trash bag which contained Asha's book bag, end quote. Investigators say they believe it's likely they'll find personal effects belonging to Asha Degree, along with other forensic and or trace evidence related to this investigation at the Northbrook Rest Home. The affidavit also hints at what investigators may have been looking for at Dedman's property at Cherryville Road. Now this part is interesting. The affidavit says that one of Dedman's daughters was interviewed and said she drove an AMC Rambler when she was 16. Investigators say this is similar to the one Asha was, quote, seen being pulled into, and that a Rambler was parked at the Dedman's property. That was the car that was towed away last week. So, just interjecting here, this was new information, I believe, as of this week. The fact that Asha was seen, quote, being pulled into a green vehicle, suggesting that she was not taken willingly. Why this wasn't released earlier, who knows, but we know it now. The affidavit says someone told investigators they saw Roy Dedman digging a chest-deep hole at the 601 Cherryville Road property several years ago. A chest-deep hole. The affidavit also says a current resident at the home told investigators that 3 rooms have been padlocked since he moved in, and Dedmon told him it contained his, quote, personal property. Investigators took cameras, journals, a black trash bag, children's clothing, and a rifle from that home. However, no human remains were found in this week's searches, end quote. Okay, so besides the DNA evidence linking this family to the crime, the daughter's hair found on Asha's book bag, and Russell Underhill's DNA found, who was under the care of Roy Dedmon. So it's kind of like they all connect in a way. But besides that, what is up with the locked rooms, these 3 padlocked rooms? Or the friggin' hole? Clearly he's hiding something. Whether that's connected to Asha's disappearance, we have yet to find out. And if the daughter was involved, or maybe the sole reason for her disappearance, why? She was just a teen. It remains unclear if the Dedmons or the daughters knew Asha, but what is still striking and confusing to everyone is why she got up and left the house in the first place, or if she made that decision on her own. I don't know. We've heard stories of children plotting to kill other children, reference the Slenderman story, but it could have also been a freak accident. Maybe the daughter, while probably illegally transporting patients, hit Asha while walking along the road late at night and then hid the body with help of her parents. Again, this is all alleged. I'm just theoretically speaking here. Evidence has been seized and DNA has been linked, but we do not have the full truth yet. Hopefully soon, like this year soon, but we will have to wait and see. I will do my very best to keep y'all updated if anything big happens, but that, my friends, is the soon-to-be-solved case of Asha Degree. I honestly think it's just a matter of time. Get in those rooms, dig up that hole, interview the whole family, extended family. They got this. Russell's family, that Underhill character, get to know him a little bit more. But thank you all very much for taking the time to listen in today. If you'd like a bit extra true crime, you're welcome to stick around after the music. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Well. This story is something out of a movie or a Notice News Snapchat video article titled "Prosecutors Say Teen Killed Mom and Showed Friend Corpse," written by Sean Newman. Quote, according to prosecutors, when a 14-year-old Mississippi girl frantically messaged her friend to come over to help with an emergency one afternoon this past March, the friend had no idea what she would witness next. Are you squeamish around dead bodies? 14-year-old Carly Gregg allegedly asked her friend when she answered the front door. According to Newman, moments later, Gregg led her friend to the bedroom where her mother was dead on the floor from 3 gunshots. Newman told the courtroom that Gregg's mother was searching her daughter's bedroom for vape pens when she was shot. Carly Gregg faces murder and attempted murder charges, according to the Clarion Ledger, as prosecutors allege the young girl used her mother's own gun to shoot her dead inside the family's Brandon, Mississippi home before calling her friend to the house. Later, the teenager is accused by prosecutors of lying in wait for an apparent ambush designed to shoot and kill her stepdad, Heath Smiley. Newman laid out the prosecution's case to jurors on Monday and alleged the teenager arrived home with her mother, a math teacher at Northwest Rankin High School, where Carly Gregg was a student. Carly went straight into her parents' bedroom to retrieve a .357 Magnum pistol from beneath their mattress. Hiding the gun behind her back, Carly went to her own bedroom and confronted her mother, who was looking for vapes, allegedly, shooting her 3 times. At a preliminary hearing in April that was recorded and released by the blog Jackson Jambalaya, Rankin County investigator Zachary Cotton said that there's home security footage that shows Carly's alleged nonchalant behavior before and after the shooting. Cotton alleged that one video shows the teenager returning to the kitchen after killing her mother, where the suspect is seen then texting from a phone, and the investigation allegedly found that the teen was messaging her stepfather asking when he would be home. Dun dun. Cotton alleged in court that between killing her mother and attempting to shoot her stepfather, Greg was seen in another video, quote, singing to her dog before texting her friend to come over. When her stepfather arrived home, prosecutors allege Carly attempted to shoot him and then fled through the family's backyard after they scuffled over the weapon, and she was arrested near the house soon after. Carly Gregg faces 2 life sentences if she's convicted in the murder and attempted murder. The outlets report the teenager rejected the state's plea deal of 40 years in prison and that her defense team entered a plea deal of insanity, end quote. That's ballsy. Just first of all, rejecting a plea deal that we know you're guilty of, and then entering a plea of insanity. We know that that's a tough sell. But I mean, on the other hand, the photos of this young kid in the courtroom are chilling. Carly Gregg looks ready to do it again, not gonna lie. Welp, that is all I have for you amazing people today. Thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for listening in. Please let me know if you have any suggestions, comments, or critiques. I do love to hear them. Watch your back around your kids, and I'll see you later. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.